and the claim submission and review procedures. So what's represented here is a simple flow diagram to show how the CACFP reimbursement process works. So whether you're a child care home or a child care center, the program begins with you spending your own money to purchase the food, the supplies, the services that are needed to operate the food program. So if you're a child care center, you're actually required to keep up with all the documents and financial records associated with those purchases. So when we come out to visit you, we're going to ask to see the receipts, the paid invoices, and all the other cost records associated with the food program. If you're a child care home, you're not required to keep up with those cost documents, but we recommend that you do, because remember, you're running a business. So the next step in the process is to actually operate the CACFP. So this means you're going to prepare the meals, you're going to serve those meals, you're going to enroll the children on the program, you're going to serve meals in accordance with your approved meal schedule. You're going to do all of the things that are required for you to participate on the food program. Now, this is very important. Remember, the process started with you spending your own money. You've got to operate the food program properly if you hope to recover any of those funds. Remember, this is a reimbursement. So you invest your money and then you follow the guidelines so that you can recover some, if not all of that money. So continuing along the flow process, as you're operating the CACFP, you're going to document your CACFP operations. This means you're going to keep up with your menus, you're going to document your attendance and meal count each day at the time of meal service, you're going to complete your child care enrollment applications, your income eligibility applications, you're going to keep up with and maintain all the documents that are required to prove to us that you qualify for reimbursement. And then at the end of the month, you're going to file your claim documents with Karamu. And you can submit those claims to us by postal mail, or you can submit online. And for child care homes only, you have the additional option to fax your claims to us or email them to us. And we'll talk about the claim submission options a little bit later on in the training. And then once we receive your claim, then we have to go through the process of verifying every claim document that you submitted. We have to go and verify that you actually qualify for the reimbursement that you're seeking. And then once we verified your claim documents, we submit your claim to the Department of Human Services, and at some point they will send reimbursement funds back to us, and we'll disperse those funds to our child care providers. Now, notice in this flow chart, remember you started by spending your own money. You'll see that $3 came out your pocket, but $4 went back into your pocket in this example. So what this is simply demonstrating is in some months, you may receive more money than you actually invested. And there's going to be some months where you'll receive less money than you actually spent on the food program. This is not a one-for-one reimbursement. You're not necessarily reimbursed for every dollar that you spend. So now we'll take a quick look at the child care homes reimbursement system, and more importantly, the reimbursement rates. So for the child care homes, whether you're licensed or self-certified, there's a two-tier reimbursement system that determines the reimbursement rates that you'll receive. All child care homes are classified as either a Tier 1 or Tier 2 home. And again, the tier level that you're assigned to will determine the amount of reimbursement rates that you receive. The basic meal reimbursement rates are known as Tier 2 rates, and all providers automatically qualify to receive these rates. Now there's a second set of rates known as Tier 1 rates that are much higher than the basic Tier 2 rates. Now, in order to qualify to receive the higher Tier 1 rates, you must either serve low-income children or you must be considered low-income yourself. Now, there's three ways that we go about determining if you qualify as a Tier 1 home. When it comes to serving low-income children, what we do is we'll check the school that serves your child care home. And if the school data shows that at least 50% of the children who attend that school are considered low income, then you'll qualify to receive the Tier 1 rates. Now, the second option is to look at U.S. Census data. So every 10 years or so, the U.S. government does a nationwide census. And part of that census identifies areas that are considered low income. So what Karamu does is we'll look at your approved address, the address where your child care facility is located. and we'll check that against the U.S. Census data. And if that data shows that you're located in an area that's considered low income, then you qualify as a Tier 1 provider. And then if we can't get you qualified by schools or by census, then the last thing we'll do is look at your own household income. So we'll send you an income eligibility application where you'll have to disclose to us all the people who live in your household and the income of each person. And then we'll take that total household income and the total number of people living in the household and compare that to a chart that's given to us by the USDA to determine whether or not your household is considered low income. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the Tier 1 reimbursement rates are substantially higher than the Tier 2 rates. And so what this chart shows you is the meal reimbursement rates that went into effect on July 1st of 2016 and are good through June 30th of 2017. So one important thing to remember is every year the rates are renewed, and sometimes they'll go up, sometimes they'll go down, sometimes they'll stay the same. Now, just looking at the difference in the rates, just take a quick look at the breakfast rates. So you notice if you're a Tier 2 provider, you'll receive 48 cents for every approved breakfast that you served. But if you're a Tier 1 provider, you'll receive $1.31 for that same breakfast. And again, as I stated a moment ago, each year the rates are subject to change. So just for reference, if you look in the bottom right-hand corner of each block, this shows you the change or how much each rate changed as compared to the 2015-2016 rates. So for example, the Tier 1 breakfast went down by 1 cent as compared to the previous year, but the Tier 2 breakfast had no change. And again, these rates are subject to change each year on July 1st. Now let's take a look at the reimbursement system for child care centers. So for the child care centers, there's actually a 3-tier reimbursement system. And under this system, the amount of reimbursement that the child care center receives is based on the household income of each individual child. Now, there's 3 categories of reimbursement that a child will fall into: free, reduced, or paid. And if you're familiar with the National School Lunch Program, then you should be familiar with these 3 categories. However, unlike the school lunch program, where if a child is classified as free, that means that child pays nothing for their meals. And if they're classified as reduced, they pay a little bit. And if they're classified as paid, they pay a little bit more. Under the Child and Adult Care Food Program, free, reduced, and paid represents how much reimbursement the provider will receive. And you're not allowed to charge the families for meals regardless of how their child is classified. So in order to determine the classification of a child, the parents must complete an income eligibility application. And the child care center must submit those income applications to Karamu for processing. And once we process the applications, then we'll know which category or classification the child will fall into. Income eligibility applications are only valid for 1 year. About 3 months before an income application expires, the child care center will get a notice from Karamu that says, you have this group of children whose income applications will expire in 3 months. And if you don't respond to that notice, we'll send you another notice a month later, and then a final notice right before the income applications expire. We get too many child care centers who don't respond to those notices in a timely manner. And when you don't respond, you may have a child who's qualified at the free rate, but when that income application expires, that child will automatically move to the paid category. I'll show you the impacts of moving from free to paid in just a moment. And I want to emphasize one last time, regardless of the category a child is placed in, you cannot charge for meals served on the CACFP. Okay, now just as with the child care homes, the child care center rates are published each year on July 1st. So these are the rates that went into effect on July 1st of 2016 that are set to expire on June 30th of 2017. And again, just notice the difference in the free, reduced, and paid rates. So if you have a child or a family who does not submit an income eligibility application, then you're going to be reimbursed at the paid rate. So notice for a breakfast, the paid rate is currently 29 cents. If a child is classified as free or reduced, then you'll get reimbursed either $1.71 or $1.41 for that same breakfast. And the difference in the meals is consistent across the board. So 53 cents for a paid lunch or dinner, $3.39 for a free lunch and dinner. So again, it's important when you have an income application that's set to expire and you receive that notice from Karamu, you need to respond and have those parents complete a new income application and submit that to Karamu, because it can have a very big impact on your reimbursement amount if you have a bunch of income apps that are free 1 month and then they drop to paid the next month.